What's up, you beauties? Welcome to HW 3.37. I'm Jim, joined as always by the host of our hit show, Full Circle, Jack Smith, and the co host of The Sheriff with Sean McMorrow, our very own Kyle Warner. If you're not listening live, please make sure to subscribe, follow, and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Spreaker. Quick shout out to our affiliate sites, fullpresscoverage.com and bellyupsports.com. Belly Up Sports recently updated their site. Go check it out during our episode. They have everything you need when it comes to sports. They do what the others don't. Find us on both sites under podcasts. While you're listening to our episode, check out our site, hwhockey.net. Check out our power rankings, drop a comment, let us know what you think. Okay, guys, well, the season's finally done. It's finally over. We don't have to watch any more games. We're not forced to go through this BS of a season anymore.
Wait, you guys are still watching games?
They kind of gave their end of season press conferences today. Vigneault, Fletcher, even Dave Scott chimed in for some reason. I want to kind of get you guys' thoughts and feelings. Like, do you feel relieved? Or are you kind of sad that the season's done? What's going on with you guys?
I'm definitely not sad, that's for sure. Because I have to watch. You know what I mean? I really have to. And I felt myself being distracted very easily, which is like, this is even my wife commented. She's like, you're not even like it's on, and you're not doing anything else, but you're not there. You know what I mean? I'm like, unless Wade Allison or Joel Farabee had the puck on their stick, I could care less. Like, I was doing my best because we do a show, and I'm just trying to see what underlying factors I could bring to the show, and if anything, changes. And to be honest, they looked a little bit better overall as a team, probably because they didn't give a shit and they weren't really pressing or gripping the stick too tight. And Allison and Farabee did all the offense. So, and Lyon was happy to be, in the NHL. But other than that, because they were out of it, it's very hard to, I almost have more fun doing Full Circle because I'm watching teams actually competing, giving a shit. And most of those teams have a future as well. So, yeah, I'm so happy that it's finally over because the real season is going to begin now, starring Chuck Fletcher.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason. Kyle, how are you feeling, buddy?
I stopped watching. I'm going to be 100% honest, dude. There's only so many times I can watch the same train wreck before I'm like, I've seen this song and dance before, and I know how this game's going. And nobody's showing up. Nobody's showing me anything to make me want to watch. Yeah, okay, Allison getting in at the end of the year. That was fun. Kid was a bright spot at the end of the year. But I checked the lineup. Sam Morin's not playing. Nobody on the other team, even when Sam Morin is playing, will fight him. I guess I'll do something else.
So you're a classic example of this team turning off, hardcore fans. Like, they just don't give you a reason to watch. They didn't really give you a reason to watch all year long until, they start putting in some of the younger guys. And Jack, that's why you were still watching. You said to watch Farabee and Allison kind of play. Huh? Yeah. Sorry about that.
So I just keep having the same conversation with people, and they ask me the same thing. Like, you just stopped watching? They're like, don't you do a show on it? I'm like, yeah, but like, you don't have to watch every game to tell you exactly how the games went. I mean, it's been the same thing all year. And they're like, how do you not watch? And I'm like, because they gave me nothing. And I keep going back to that 06, 07 year where the Flyers were the worst team in the league. I didn't miss a game that year. I couldn't keep my eyes off of the screen. Like, they provided me with some entertainment factor, and this team just doesn't. It's just not good all the way around.
Kyle's right in a sense, because that very same year, I went to fan appreciation night, and that's in like March. Like, the season's like completely over, and they lost 2-1 because they scored on themselves. Like, that's how bad they were. But they were throwing the body around. There were fights. You know what I mean? Like, they gave a shit. Where this team is just, we said it a million times, there's really no point getting back into it. And really, it was status quo for almost everybody, except for the goaltending, because Elliott may have played his last game against the Devils. They did win 4-2. Wade Allison and Farabee traded back-to-back 2-goal games. Farabee hit the 20-goal mark, which in a regular season, he was on pace for 30. That's something. I love seeing that, especially when there's not much around him that really cares. So yeah, no, for me it was almost like an extra interview that I was doing with the team and the players, and you obviously don't want to get anybody to like tear their Achilles heel or anything like that, but it was just that it's finally over, and I want to see the playoffs because nothing beats playoff hockey, no matter who's playing. But really, it's a step closer to Fletcher doing anything. And Vegas is now officially an NHL team. They've made their last payment. Not Vegas, Seattle.
Yeah.
So we can you start negotiating. So maybe they're one of the first teams. Maybe they're talking already. I don't know.
What kind of depresses me even more is because, yeah, we watch the Flyers every night, but after the Flyers, I'll watch a West Coast game and, I'll be up to like 12:30, 1 o'clock, sometimes watching these West Coast teams like the Avalanche or the Knights, and they're just worlds better than what we watched this year, and the Avalanche had their share of COVID issues. I'm not sure Vegas had to go through any of that. But there's just a difference in the way these teams play. There's a difference of, players on the roster, obviously talent-wise. There was an interesting comment on Twitter today, and maybe I'll start the new segment here. So we want to start a new segment called the Dirty But Good Tweet of the Week. And our good buddy Frank on Twitter was talking about how, this team just doesn't have any star power or they don't have any good players. They have a weird mix. And Tim, I forget his handle, but I'm sure everybody knows Tim. He always has a good outside the box perspective. Commented and he said, you know what? The Flyers have good players. They just don't have any players in their prime, which I guess I think prime age is 25, 26, 27, And if you look at this, and we've said it on this show, they have very young players or they have kind of, 29, 30, 31-year-old players. They don't really have guys in their prime. They have a weird mix of guys, right? And so is that something that you guys think that they should go out and not just bring in, guys 25, 26, 27 years old, but if they're going to go out and bring in players, should they target guys in that age range?
That's tough. A lot of the guys who are very good, it's a young man's game. Like the McDavids, the Matthews, like that's the age range that they're in. And a lot of those guys don't hit free agency unless there's an issue. Unless something happens. Laine's how old is he? I think he's actually only like going to be 22. And he'll still be under the restricted tag. And a lot of these guys, they stay with their teams if they're not flat out traded, but then you're giving up a lot. If they hit free agency at 24, 25, something went wrong usually. Usually if they're not going to stay with the team they're with, they get traded. So, I mean, if you're not going to go get a stud guy at that age range, look, Hamilton's the top name coming out now. How old is he? Like 29, 30? He was the same draft as Couturier, so he can't be – definitely not 25.
Let me double check that. He might be in the age range that we're talking about here. Let me just double check.
I'd be shocked. He was the same draft class as Couturier. Couturier is what, 29, 30?
Yeah.
So he might at the most be 28 years old at the most.
Born in 93. I'm not really good at math. I don't know what that is. 7 plus. Yeah, it might be 28, 29, Jack. You're right.
Yeah. So, I mean, those young, and that's why drafting is very key. But at the same time, it's drafting at the very tip top of the draft. Those are the guys who are in their prime like that, around age 24, 25, are killing it. It's all those guys. When was Laine drafted? Second overall. Look how good goals he's put in the NHL already. Matthews, McDavid, even he sure is not bad. You know what I mean? Like these are the guys who are 25 and younger who are killing it right now. These guys don't hit free agency unless they're third line grinders.
I might rub you the wrong way a little bit here, but after thinking about what Tim said for a little bit, you look at the Flyers roster, and maybe we do just need to be a little bit more patient here. Maybe we just need to let Giroux, Voracek, Van Riemsdyk kind of rot off the roster or find a way to move them. Because if you look at the new core of this team, Travis Konechny, Ivan Provorov, this is going to piss you guys off. Travis Sanheim, Farabee, Allison's now in that core. Tanner Lazinski's in that core. These are all guys 22, 23, 24 years old heading into next season. You let these guys play together for a year or two. You add in the right pieces as they grow up. This is, if they develop properly, which, we saw this year, that doesn't always happen the way we think. I don't think the Flyers, and I hate to say it because I was, angry along with everybody else. I'm not giving them a mulligan on the season, but it was a messed up year, right? It wasn't a regular 82 game year. They played their division all season long, which basically was a death sentence for this roster. They're undersized, they're less experienced than teams like the Capitals, Bruins, Penguins, Islanders, who beat up on them in the playoffs last year. Again, this is not excuses, but if you want to tell me, hey, we're a lot better than we showed this year, I believe that, but I still want to see them add pieces as they go along. What do you guys think?
So the counterpoint to that real quick, when you said let like Voracek and them rot off the roster, the only issue with that is you could run into the problem we ran into with Young in his prime, Giroux, where we had contracts that we needed to rot off the roster. We had Vinny Lecavalier who needed, and McDonald and players of that nature who needed to rot off the roster. And look what we did. We pretty much wasted Giroux's prime in that process. So I think you're right. The pieces are in place, but they can't afford to sit around and wait. Giroux's going to be a free agent after next season, I believe. So you can either move on or sign him back for cheap and have him have a lesser role. But Voracek needs to be moved. Like, you cannot sit around for 5 years and let that rot off. Like, that needs to go. JVR, yes, he had a good season, but he's not getting any younger. I don't think he creates scoring opportunities on his own, which as you get older is a lot tougher. He's good for the power play. Well, I won't doubt that. But $7 million is a lot of dollars for just scoring goals. So, these are names that they need to get out from under the cap because they need that cap to go elsewhere to add to the pieces that you were saying. So guys like Farabee can play with actual talented players in their prime while they're 24, 25, 26 years old. Then maybe we catch something and then we can go with it.
Yeah, and how about JVR, Kyle? He kind of an MIA there for a little bit. He was looking like he was going to score 30 goals in 56 games. What happened to him?
I think he put together a pretty good season for what we're used to with JVR, the 2 games, 5 points in 2 games, and then no points in 15. He didn't do that much this year. So all in all, I'm not complaining about 43 points in 56 games.
Yeah.
So do you think that's $7 million worth?
It's what we got. So, and you're going to be able to move one of those 2 contracts. I don't think you're going to be able to move both. And at this point, I'd much rather take a productive year. If I'm looking at their 2 years, I'm taking JVR over Voracek. If not, just because I lose more in cap getting rid of Voracek than I do JVR. And it's longer term to keep Voracek over JVR. So get rid of Voracek, and then who knows, maybe next year or the year after, the Flyers aren't where they need to be, and come trade deadline, somebody's looking to add a scorer for the playoffs with that last year of his term.
Yeah, I agree with that. If Voracek's not feasible, I've even heard goes to Seattle, but before we get into that, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, so our buddy Christopher McCarthy here comments, I think today with Voracek, a no-show in, I guess this was the end of the season press conferences, and the fact that he took extra shifts in the third. I didn't notice that, but I guess I really wasn't paying much attention, which wasn't planned. He thinks it tells a sign potentially that he knows he's gone. So I guess he was staying out for extended shifts, or it was just, I don't know. Was he just not listening to AV? I don't know. He still has to get moved in. That's on the GM to move him. Can he move him? I don't know. I don't know if I trust Chuck Fletcher to move him.
That's what we're going to find out. I mean, he needs to go. And like Kyle said, I agree 100% with everything Kyle said about moving Voracek before Jake. I just hope it's possible. And at this point, I don't see us getting anything back. And I know it would have to be a money for money thing. Seattle is really the only option. They have to please. You know what I mean? Give up a first. I wouldn't start there, but if it came to it, I probably would do it. There's not a lot known of this draft. I've been watching mock drafts, and almost all the mock drafts are after the top 8, we kind of get a little, So if that's the case, what am I really that married to my first round pick? If I could change the entire culture of my team and open up $8.25 million, am I really that married to a first round pick? No, I'm not.
especially this year. Like it's the perfect storm. Like, you know, you don't really know what you're going to get as far as your draft pick. Give it to Seattle, you know, like just give it to them. This is the year to give them it's a 13th overall pick, the pick that we've been friggin' stuck with for the last decade. It feels like, right? Give it up. Trade the
Every
pick for
single
cap
year.
space, right?
Well, one time we got really lucky and 13 became 2, which became Nolan Patrick.
Hit
So
the jackpot.
Oh, totally luck. All luck there. It's like
we literally
that's
could have
like
drafted
fucking
anybody else in the top 6 and been good.
that's like winning the Mega Millions lottery and then losing the ticket.
Yeah.
Well, money's all counterfeit.
You owe money on that ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You pay taxes. Oh, jeez.
What did he finish? Second or third and negative
Second
plus minus?
and minus. I have the stats right here. I don't know, season's technically not over, but Nolan Patrick's stats for the year: 52 games played, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. He was a minus 30. Just for fun, Wade Allison played 14 games, had 4 goals, 3 assists, and 7 points. Almost passed Patrick, tied him in goals.
Wow,
That
dude.
is pathetic.
Like that kind of puts it in perspective a little bit, just how bad the season was. Because when you just said Nolan Patrick's numbers alone, it's like, okay, well, you know, he played the 52 game season. But when you bring up Wade Allison's stats, it's like, dude, maybe he would have been better off taking some games off. You know, for real, 9 points in 52 games, number 2 overall pick. Yes, we know he missed a year. He's probably going through some mental things. Maybe he's not in the best playing shape. Wade Allison's had his fair share of injuries. And hey, this is another kid that's had to battle through adversity to get to where he is, right? He's had a couple injuries in the last couple of years. I don't know, man.
Especially right after his draft year, which is tough on a kid, you know, because you all of a sudden there's another draft class behind you. It was actually Nolan Patrick's draft class, but like it's kind of like, oh shit, like, you know, I might just be thrown to the wayside and suddenly I'm forgotten about, and I might be a career AHLer if I can get my crap together. And he got hurt again after that, and he still persevered. We thought we were gonna like lose him. We re-signed him, and we feel like we're reaping the benefits a little bit here. Yeah, it's 14 games in a lost season. I get it. But it's better than seeing him just kind of skating around. You know what I mean? He's actually producing, and he's getting the ice time too, which I really appreciate. I really like seeing him and Farabee on the same line. Like, there's something to be positive about. Once we knew we were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and I'll take that. You know, that would give me one reason to at least have it on the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference, I mean, points aside from the two, is just compete level. I mean, Patrick didn't seem like this entire year he really even gave a shit. Like, he just kind of skated around. I'm here. I'm playing. This is what you pay for, me to play. I'm playing. And freaking Allison comes in, and that motor doesn't stop running. I don't think I've ever seen that kid take a shift where he didn't take 200 strides. He's go, go, go.
You know what's crazy about Patrick? Like, and this is just from a personal standpoint. Like, in the NFL, if you're drafted that high, you like immediately, even with the new restrictions they put in place, you make a ton of money. So I could see somebody who's really not that good and they don't have the drive. They're going to play out their 5-year, 4-year, I forget what it is, contract, and whatever happens, happens. And they're going to be rich probably for the rest of their lives as long as they're not stupid about it. Patrick has made virtually nothing. And he's on a 1-year deal. So if you try a little bit, it's not even a full season, and you can show this team that you're worth something. You can make a little bit of money or show the next team you're worth something. And he just doesn't care. It's like you're just costing yourself dollars, like serious money. Like, yeah, okay, you make almost $1 million. I'm sure that'll be good for you, but the lifestyle you're probably used to living, you're probably going to want a lot more. Not to mention, if hockey doesn't work out, you make enough, you can retire and do whatever the hell you want. But now he's kind of like, I mean, he's really not made anything, and he's in line to not make any much more. It's just, I don't understand his mindset. It's very, I don't know. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. There's a difference between guys like Sam Morin, Wade Allison, who went through their own fair share of adversity, which is, I don't feel like it's talked about enough. And it's not to make Nolan Patrick look worse. It's to make these kids look better, right? Because Nolan Patrick's the flip side of that coin right now. You know, you go through a lot of shit and, you know, you have to overcome it. Your mind first. Your mind tells the body what to do. So, wait, let me just put this up here real quick. Dan, Seattle Kraken fan here. You guys know Dan, right?
We love you, Dan.
Yeah.
You gotta like somebody. They're gonna at least take Ghost, right? Like, come on.
Dude, you better get that Voracek jersey now, buddy. Yeah, so there's a flip side to that coin. Some guys pan out. We're seeing Allison and, hopefully Moran persevere. And we're seeing Nolan Patrick, who's having a tougher time with that whole thing.
I don't think AV likes Moran. I think he's doomed here.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
I don't think AV likes that style of player. I mean, no offense to Sam Moran, but he's pretty one-dimensional.
And Kyle, let's talk about that a little bit because we brought that up on a show in the past. I don't know how much we talked about it, but you go back and look at some of Alain Vigneault's teams with New York and Vancouver. I mean, he had Burroughs in Vancouver, and I think he had a tough guy in New York. He played on
He had multiple tough guys in New York.
Yeah.
Did he? I remember Glass was one of them.
Oh, Tanner Glass. Yeah, he's been around.
So I'm wondering though, but I don't recall anybody like that on. Well, he had Bieksa, I guess, in Vancouver too. So maybe I'm wrong there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was wondering if this is just the style of hockey that Vigneault plays, where the guys don't play with any passion, or they don't get angry. They're not allowed to play after the whistle or anything like that. But yeah,
I don't know, man. The Rangers are pretty active, especially their third and fourth lines. Like that was one of the reasons they were really good in the playoffs, is those lines would just contribute. They would just wear you down to a nub. They really like they came out and they played. They weren't exactly like putting you through the glass, but they played to win, and it really gave team fits. Like teams like that were top heavy, like they would beat those teams because the third and fourth line would win the games for them. And then they had Lundqvist at goal, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, you guys are right. And our buddy Ty, thanks for hanging out with us again, buddy. Michael Haley, I think, was on that team as well. So I'm just completely wrong there.
Michael Haley was on the Rangers the last 3 years. He was not on AV's team now.
Okay. All right. So AV's teams did have some tougher players. I'm just completely wrong there. I'm looking for excuses because this team was just so bad. I'm trying to find reasons for why they played the way they did. I don't know. Do you guys want to delve into any of the excuses, or do you just not? Are you guys still at the point where you just don't want to hear any of it?
Yeah,
I'm so tired of excuses.
They're doing their exit interviews, and I think if any of the coaches say the word COVID or practice or any of things of that nature, they should probably be fired because the entire league had to deal with this shit. Why are we so special? We get a pass. Like we don't. This is bullshit. Like, come on. I cannot stand that. Okay, I get it, but the whole league dealt with it. When the whole league has to deal with it, it's not an excuse. So come on. We didn't move mountains in adding all these new players and not accustomed to the system. This is the same exact team from last year minus one defenseman. Come on.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this, and I'm just changing gears real quick here. A lot of Jack Eichel rumors came out today. It looks like he's definitely not going to be in Buffalo next year. What are the odds he comes to Philly?
4%.
0.
It's LA or New York, baby. It makes too much sense for both teams. Just pray he doesn't go to the Rangers. That's all you got to do is pray he doesn't go to the Rangers.
He's definitely going to the Rangers.
I'm hoping LA ups their offer because they got a lot of great prospects. I'm hoping that they are the team. They trade for Eichel and then they either trade or sign Line A. I could see it happening. They have so much depth down there with their prospects, but the Rangers make a ton of sense too. I can see them building a package around Capo. Maybe Lafreniere if they're really that crazy about it, but I think Capo and a couple of picks. I talked to a Rangers fan that brought up Capo. He's like, no. I'm like, dude, you're going to have to give something up to get, Eichel here. Don't be stupid. And you should do it. You should do it in a heartbeat. Like
we'll trade him. We'll trade him Brendan Smith.
Yeah. Brendan Smith in the third.
Dude, apparently that's all you got to send Buffalo. What they get, a second and that guy Bjork for Taylor Hall.
Oh yeah. It was at Boston. Yeah, second and a Bjork, and they're gonna resign him. But that works out because Krejci is a free agent, and so is Rask. So like a 14 mil just came off the cap for them. So Hall will most likely be resigning in Boston, which is weird because I thought he was destined for Calgary, but we'll see.
Here's a quick question. Put you guys on the spot. You can't pick Voracek either.
I got my answer. I'm ready.
Which Flyer ends up a Kraken?
Shane Gostisbehere.
I can't pick Voracek.
Nah, or Ghost now.
Justin Braun.
JVR knows it. The answer is JVR, and he knows it, but he won't say it.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. I'm not confident in Chuck for going into
No
the
trades
expansion
take
stuff.
place, and they just draft because Sam Carchidi came out with that through the Flyers protect Ghost. The guy that we sent to the taxi squad or whatever, and anybody could have had him. And I understand Seattle has all the cap space in the world. I think we're not going to protect him because I don't think the team likes him. And you want to be fooled by those offensive stats. I just want to pull up a stat for you guys real quick about Ghost, okay? So Scott Lawton, who people were upset about his contract, it's $3 million per year. He had 9 goals, 11 assists for 20 points. He was a plus 13. Shane Gostisbehere, 9 goals, 11 assists for 20 points. He was a minus 2. One of those guys is a defenseman. Okay, so the minus, it shouldn't have the minus. It should have the plus. He's a defenseman. So you want to fall in love with his offensive stats? Be my guest. You're not winning anything with that team. You need defensemen who can play defense. So if Seattle takes him, wouldn't be best case scenario, but it'd be more money well spent elsewhere. Oh, and Scott Lawton makes $3 million. How much does Ghost make?
4 point something.
And people don't dislike the Lawton deal. Come on.
Yeah, that's a little odd to me. I have no confidence that for some reason I just see Voracek and Gostisbehere back on this team next year. I'm at the point where I just don't believe that, because for the past 4 years I'm like, all right, this is the summer, this is the year Ghost is gone, and he's still here. Even this year where it's like he was gone. We heard our buddy Ant Sand tell us on our show a couple weeks ago, Ghost was as good as gone. And what happens? Matt Niskanen retires, and he's still here. He just finds a way to stick around. So
he's a
I have no
parasite.
doubt.
He finds a way.
He's a parasite.
I have
Living
no doubt
off the
Ghost is going
host
to be
My
here.
ways-
that is the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yep. Interesting comment by Chris here. Thank God. What a disgusting year. These kids don't care about winning. They just want to collect their fat checks and go hit the links. No passion, gutless effort this season. Really disgraceful. Man, that is a dirty
I
but
just
good comment.
described Jake Voracek in a nutshell. Yes,
Yeah. And that trickles down, man. Nolan
does.
Patrick. It's not as fat of a check, but Nolan Patrick too, man. That's him.
Well, he and Voracek were just meant to be friends.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That perfectly summed up the year. Thanks for that comment there, Chris. We have Anthemeo. JVR is going to Seattle. We can't be so lucky to have Voracek with, and that's kind of how I feel.
We know they're not going to just take him. If Voracek's going, there's a lot going with him. Let's be real here.
Are you guys cool with that?
I don't know, man. If it came down to they just have to flat out pick somebody off our team, I think they might go with an offensive defenseman, considering that's the way the league is. He's younger. Ghost offensively had a better year. Would not surprise me if it was Ghost instead of JVR. Plus 7 million, 4 point what? 4.3 or something? 4.5? It's less than 7.
If they go the way that Vegas went, Vegas they didn't really stock up on, and I'm not trying to be a devil's advocate here, Jack. I'm just trying to remember how Vegas built their team. They just had a bunch of solid, I would say, lower tier second to third pairing guys, if I remember correctly. And I'm thinking of guys like
defense?
Yeah. And offensively, I'm thinking about guys like William Karlsson somehow had 40 goals. Maybe they should have checked him for PEDs or something, because he hasn't really sniffed 40 goals since.
That was an anomaly. That was an anomaly, yeah.
And
they went with the veteran goaltending, which
that's true.
Helped out Pitt, but it
Big
made sense
time
for them too.
Yeah.
No, they got lucky with Anaheim,
so.
though. They got Shea Theodore from Anaheim. Yep. He was very good. And you're right, though. For the most part, McNabb from the Kings was kind of a second, third pairing kind of guy. And there was really off the top of my head, there was really no big names on defense that went the other way. But if you're trying to sell from a selling ticket standpoint, I can see them grabbing Ghost.
Hopefully. Yeah, dude, as much as we talk negatively, or I'll speak for myself, as much negative things as I say about Shane Gostisbehere, he can be fun to watch. And if you want to sell tickets to fans who, maybe don't really watch the whole game, but mainly the highlights or the exciting play, then yeah, sign Shane Gostisbehere. They don't know what the hell.
I can sell you Ghost and a whole season worth of highlights. It was a couple years ago, but there was a lot of highlights there. I think he had
Wait, was
like
that the
3
65
overtime winners in a row.
Seattle has never really had an NHL team. So who are they really watching right now? Vancouver? Quinn Hughes looks like one hell of a defenseman right now, doesn't he? I mean, if that's what they're used to seeing out there, and you want to sell tickets, I would die if they said scored 65 points in 2016-17 or whatever the hell it was. That would be hilarious. But I could see them doing it. He's younger. You want to talk about in his prime? How old's Ghost? 26, 27?
I think he's 27, yeah.
JVR is what, 31?
Yeah, take Ghost, man. I would rather them take Ghost over JVR. I'm still on the, get JVR the right center, and he can put up points all year long. I know he kind of went, missing for chunks of the season again, but the whole team kind of went missing. So.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah, and like with JVR, we had said at the beginning of the season, if he's going to be successful, you need to cater to him.
Yeah,
they had him out there on the PP1, and he rewarded them. He's the best at deflecting pucks like in the world. Like it's impressive. So what you have in JVR. Is it a lot of money? Sure. It was a free agent deal where you got less years. So you come to terms with that. If I'm Seattle though, like, do I want to do that at that age? It depends obviously on what else they are looking at. They have an idea of what they're going to get from these other teams, and the deals haven't even started taking place yet. But just off the top of my head, where defensemen are usually at a minimum because they're a premium position and he can help draw tickets, would not surprise me.
Yeah. So here's a topic here from our buddy Anthony, who usually watches with us. And guys, this is going to be a pretty big topic to touch on here. So let's discuss it. I want ownership that cares about the Flyers. Ed Snyder cared, and they always tried to get the best players no matter what. I wish they would sell to someone who had the passion like Snyder did. The Flyers have become irrelevant, and it's sad. So talked a little bit about this on the Pod Street Bully show last night with Derek Bob. The Flyers have turned into a straight-up corporation right in front of our faces, guys. Like, think back 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The Flyers were a hockey team. They were fun. They were ran by hockey guys. They had passionate GMs. Maybe they didn't make always the right move, but they were fun. They tried to win, right? I mean, you couldn't ask for a better owner than Ed Snyder. You really couldn't. Like, we were spoiled for so long, and when he died, a little piece of the Flyers' heart and soul died with them. Right before our eyes.
The biggest piece.
Yeah.
The Flyers' heart and soul died with him.
Yeah.
Right before our eyes, though, guys, the Flyers kind of, put a sheet overhead, and they turned into a corporation. They're all about money. Gritty's pumped down our throats nonstop, right? All this fanfare. It's all BS. It's corporate stuff.
Honestly, the firing of Hextall backs that up as well. They weren't doing enough at the pro level. He got fired right before Christmas. What gets like sold right before Christmas time?
The Santa Sacks.
I mean, the team's taking a dump. You knew what Hextall was all about. Love him or hate him, you knew he was going to break this team down so he could build up a contender, a perennial contender who's replenishing itself with its own prospects and not having to re-sign guys for ridiculous deals. And whether it worked out or not, we'll never know. But we do know that they said, you need to make us money. This is not going well. We put up enough of this. We know we were paying these guys ridiculous money. It doesn't work. And out he went. And Hacksaw not long after. And I'm seeing exactly what you're seeing. They don't care enough. If Therrien would have been fired, I mean, Vigneault probably would have been fired too, let's be real. But Therrien would have been fired last year. Vigneault probably would have got fired this year. Yao probably would have went with him. And I think Claude Julien would be our coach right now. This is if Ed Snyder ever let, what's his name, go to Florida. Like, he would have backed up a truck full of money to John Quenneville to just, what do you name your price? Well, I'm friends with the guy in Florida. I want to retire there. Name your price, then double it, then triple it. Like, that was Ed Snyder. Let's be real. Like, we would have gotten him because he wanted him. That's it. And that's gone. If it's not feasible for this team financially, Forget it. Like we'll just go. We'll take the backup assistant in the AHL team. We'll go with him.
We'll take Eric Gustafson to fill a hole.
Yeah. Now, the cap is a thing, but that being said, I don't remember Snyder really giving a shit. You know what I mean? Like they had one bad year. What did they do? They went out and they signed the highest free agent, Danny Briere. They acquired Hartnell and Timonen, and they did a plethora of other moves. And they found themselves in the Eastern Conference Championship 1 year after finishing dead last and getting screwed, not getting Patrick Kane. They got JVR instead. You know, like they still were that good of a team that quickly.
Yeah, it's disheartening to think about because it's not the Flyers that we knew. It's not the Flyers that we grew up with. We're all around the same age. I'm sure a lot of the guys watching and listening. This Flyers organization's not the same organization we grew up with. It's not about hockey anymore. It's about making money. And the more I hear from Dave Scott, the angrier I get about that. Why do we hear from this guy? I know he's, what is he, the president of the organization, or he's Comcast this, Comcast that. You had nothing to do with the hockey team, though. Why do we hear from that guy?
He's literally the Ed Schneider fill-in, essentially. Like, I run Comcast, but I manage the Flyers. And when, the president needs to be let go, he's like that guy. And he's going to sit there and he's going to pretend that he has an actual opinion on the team because he watches. He's looking at the bottom line, and with COVID and all that, there really isn't much of a bottom line. So he probably sees the Flyers record, knows their expectations, and says things like, oh, yes, we need to be better. He sounds like Andy Reid out there. We need to be better. We need to do a better job. Like, okay, no kidding. Thanks, Dave. Did you make any changes? Is Fletcher still here? All the coaches are still here. Everybody who makes all the big decisions are all still here. So what are you actually doing except for showing up for your press conference?
Did you want to say something there, Kyle? Okay. So I agree with you. And all season long, they gave you hints that this season was going to be a mulligan. All season long, they were hinting to you that we're not going to fire anybody. We're not going to make any irrational decisions based off this season. And they got blown out multiple times, 6-1 to the Sabres, 6-1 to the Islanders, 9-0 to the Rangers, 8-2 or 8-3, whatever the hell it was, to the Rangers. The next time they played them, they had the same player. 2 straight times they played them, score 6 points in a period, back-to-back hat tricks, never been done. Gretzky never did it. Nobody got fired. Not even the littlest guy in the organization. Not even the equipment manager got canned. Not even the goalie coach got canned. Nobody got canned. To me, it was saying everything's fine. We're going to accept this. Or they were telling you that, hey, this is a mulligan season. We're not going to do anything based off what's happening this year. It's not fair to the people working. It's a condensed season. And that tells me, what does that tell your players? What kind of message does that relay down? Okay, this is a mulligan season. Why should I bust my ass? Why should I do this? Why should I do that? These guys are telling me everything that's happening is acceptable. My job is safe for at least a year. I'm going to be back next year. Bothers me.
I mean, so of the coaches, Michel Therrien, the Flyers power play percentage was down to 19.2. That was 20th in the league. Power play goals, they scored 33. That's tied for 14th. That's 9th in power play opportunities with 169. Shorthanded goals against they were tied for 3rd. They gave up 6. And because he controls the offensive well, their shooting percentage, 29.2, that was 12th in the league, and the goals for percentage was 2.86, that's 15th. That's actually slightly up on the offensive side, but the power play side, down. And if it wasn't for JVR, how bad would it be then? Like, maybe he ghosts a little bit at the end there. Like, I don't know. It's almost like when they kept Lappy on the bench for so long. We all love the guy, but when he was in charge of the penalty kill, had the guy around for 4 seasons, we saw it, I wouldn't even say steadily decline. It dropped off a cliff. They were an embarrassment. And
why is he still on the bench, by the way?
What's that?
Why is Lappy still on the bench? Why do I see him on the bench? Remember when they were like, oh, yeah, Lappy's not going to be on the bench anymore, and he just is on the bench.
They like him, I guess. But at this point, when you're this bad, I don't care who you like. You know what I mean? Hey, Tortorella's a free agent.
Yeah. Could you imagine having AV
So
and
is Rick
Tortorella on the
Tocchet.
same bench? And Tocchet, could you imagine? I mean, they got
I
3 head
think-
coaches on the bench already. Why
I
not?
think they should run a 2-head coach system that would force Jake Voracek into retirement. Probably a couple of other players too. All the money would come
Revolutionize
off
the
of
game.
cap.
Rick Tocchet would beat the brakes off of JVR, or not JVR, off of Jake Voracek after the first game.
Can we re-sign Brindamore and Tocchet as players? Is that the whole thing?
Yeah, right. Could you imagine? I wonder if they could go out and get Tocchet as an assistant coach, and then
Yeah, I think he'll probably be a head coach somewhere.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He'd be a good guy to work with these younger players, though. I think he did a decent job with what he was given in Arizona. I wonder if they could bring him back. He was around here for a little bit before. Did he go to Pittsburgh first, or did he go right to
Yeah.
Arizona?
And he pulled a tool bag move too. He was like our intermission guy for a while,
Yeah.
and then he became an assistant for Pitt. The draft, it might have been in Philly, I'm not sure, but he made the announcement for Pittsburgh to make the pick, and it was like,
Jerk. I love talking. Favorite player growing up. Yeah, he'd be cool as an assistant coach, but it looks like I would be disappointed if Terry and Yo came back, to be honest with you.
they're going to.
We were
100%.
promised, big changes, a busy summer. And, I think at least one guy.
The only change we're going to get is the hashtag. It's not going to be anytime, anywhere anymore. It's going to be no COVID anymore. No bubbles. No bubbles, no COVID. Go Flyers.
Yeah. More
There should be no
excuses.
excuses. That's what it should be, but they won't do that.
Hashtag just give us your money and shut up.
Yeah, hashtag Santa Sex.
All right, so we're about 40 minutes in. Why don't we get to some grading here? You guys want to do some grades? Let's give some out.
Where do you want to start? Offense, defense, coaching?
Let's go with the best part of this team and go with defense.
Oh boy. All right. I'll lay it out for you. What I have here. Justin Braun's first up, 53 games played. He had 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. He was even plus minus. What are your guys' grade for Justin Braun?
Go ahead, Kyle. You want to go first?
Justin Braun. I'd give him a solid B. B minus.
I think that's
He
I think
didn't.
that's right.
He didn't give you anything flashy. He did what Justin Braun does.
Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the same. C plus B. He was Justin Braun. He was, I don't. When they signed him, he wasn't supposed to play the minutes he was playing. He wasn't supposed to be playing top line minutes. Was not supposed to be playing second pairing minutes. He was supposed to be playing third pairing minutes. Play the dirty minutes. In the defensive zone. Play the PP. Instead, he's playing against top line guys with Ivan Provorov on the top pairing. Did everything that he was asked to do. Give him a B. Sure.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. He should not have been in the top pairing. That's not necessarily his fault. I give him a C plus. So we're right in the same range there. B minus, C plus. It's right in there. It's Justin Braun. What do you expect? Ooh, here's a good one. Shane Gostisbehere, 41 games played, 9 goals, 11 assists, 20 points. He was a -2 on the season. Jim, we'll go with you first. Your grade.
Hey, on pace for a 40-point season. That's that's 2/3 all the way to 65. So in a 160-game season, he's on pace for 65 points. I'm just kidding, dude. Ghost played well this year for Ghost standards. Okay, and when I say played well, I don't mean he's top pairing guy, 65 point, this and that. He played okay for Ghost standards. So for Ghost standards, I'm going to give him a B. If we're going, regular.
No. I don't want Ghost standards. I want his grade. Flat out.
Like based off what I expect from Ghost, he
all right.
he overachieved. Like I don't know how to grade him fairly, because I expect very, very little, and he exceeded my expectations, honestly. So I think I'm going to give, and it's so weird to give out another B because this team was so bad. I'm going to give Ghost a B.
Especially on defense, but we'll get there. In a country where murder is considered a, not necessarily illegal. All right, Jim or Kyle, just get him. Just get him.
Who? Ghost?
Ghost and Jim at the same time. He gave him a B.
Okay. Jim gets a solid. You know, it was a teetering A-, but that mustache he came in with at the end of the year, definitely A+. Straight through, all in all. No, Ghost for me, honestly, he gets a C- from me. You know, he had an opportunity to insert himself into a lineup and really prove to everybody that he can duplicate a 65-point season. He can take over in games. And you know what, to be honest with you, his mistakes were far more glaring than his strong points in the season. And for me, that's a C-. He did ghost type things from time to time, but the turnovers, the bad defensive zone play, the miscommunications, the completely being lost, C-, borderline D+.
So I'm much closer with Kyle here. I gave him a C simply because of the points. There was a point when you looked at how bad this defense was. He was one of the better. Like I thought he should have played with Provorov simply because they had known each other. They had played together before, and Myers and Sanheim were so bad. Braun didn't belong in the top four, really. Hag had been injured. Gustafsson was the Ghost clone, was the much, much, much worse player. So I gave him a C. I'm not fooled by the offense. You're not winning with a guy like that. You need somebody who can play defense, like actually play defense, especially on this team, especially with young goaltending, especially with the system where we're dishing out. Ghost is at best a commodity for a really good team. You know, for a team that just does everything right, like Vegas. Like if they have the cap space, I could see him going out there and they just deploy him in very like odd situation, power play specialist. Other than that, he's on their third pairing. They probably scratch him every once in a while, aka things you don't do with a guy making $4.5 million. Was it better than last year? Sure, but was there really anywhere else to go but up? No. So I understand why he gave him a B. I understand why he gave him a D+, C-. I'm settling with a C. And I actually think that's, you probably think I was going to go worse with that. Did you, Jim?
No, I think you grade pretty fairly. I just have such low standards for this guy that the way he played this year, I was like, he looked kind of good for what I expected. I think that's where my B comes from.
We're kind of saying the same thing in
Yeah.
that regard. Move on to the next defenseman real quick. Sam Moran, who was funny when I first pulled this list, was listed as a forward, if you remember those times.
Oh, my God. Do you remember that?
Yeah, 20 games played, 1 goal, 0 assists for 1 point. He was a -7. That 1 goal was pretty sweet, though. Kyle, you got your boy.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
that 1 goal was a beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Also worth noting, he dropped Brendan Lemieux and Ross Johnston. He also won every altercation he was in as well. So
put that into your grading. I think you should.
With all of the adversity this kid has been through, to step into the NHL lineup and look like he belonged. Like he didn't really look out of place. Solid A- for me.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Solid A-.
Yeah, I'm going to go A.
What? The A's. Okay.
Everything that he went through and then to actually stay up here for 20 games, cool. Awesome.
So I totally agree with you guys in the sense that this was the first year because he's played on the Flyers before. But this season, he just looked like, yeah, this is it for me. Like, I'm going to play like me, really. And I like that. I did. And part of this is on AV not playing him enough, but I gave him a C+. I appreciated what he brought. I appreciated what he did. I just don't know how. Ooh. I don't know how good he is. I thought a C+ was commendable, but you guys blew me out of the water. So dude, I'll take the L.
You know what I love so far? I love how bad the Flyers defense was this year, and we're giving guys B's and C's, A's,
A-. That's why I'm thinking my grades are bad. All right, Eric Gustafsson, I gave him an F-. I don't even want to give you the stats.
Incomplete.
No, that Morgan Frost is incomplete.
F is for failure to play defense.
Moving along. Robert Hag, 34
What was
games
that little
played.
jingle that Kyle just made up right there? Was that a real thing?
We'll have to go back.
Well, you know SpongeBob. F is for friends who do stuff together. U is for you and me. So
Oh my
I
God.
just figured I'd go ahead and go F is for shitty defense played
Oh!
by Gustafson.
We just lost 30 viewers for that.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. We gained
Well,
30.
he said F is for, and I paused, and he only said the S word, so I'll take it.
Might be giving
All
out a
right.
T-shirt, by
Listen.
the way. 10 minutes
Wait
to
a
go here, boys.
Pay attention. Robert Hagg, 34 games played, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. He's a -3. Jim.
I'm giving Haig a D. Not impressed with Haig this year. Wouldn't be mad if he wasn't back next year. I think we've seen enough of Haig. Serviceable,
Boys,
but
continue with your grading, but I gotta run real fast. So
the Rocket.
the Rocket's going off
All right, go
5
watch
minutes.
the Russian Rocket.
Red Rocket
And
time.
Junior's been talking about it all week, so I got to make sure he's outside and sees it.
All right,
Okay.
go. My junior's too little. All right, Robert Hagg. Jim, I actually gave him a D as well. Exactly. Yeah, not enough Robert Hagg. I don't know. Maybe if he played more, he would have been a little bit better because when there were certain plays he's made that kind of surprised me, but ultimately you're not getting much from the guy, so we'll just move
Double
on.
D's for Robert Haig.
So here's a good one. Felipe Myers, 44 games played, 1 goal, 10 assists, 11 points. He was a -10. Jim, your thoughts?
Severely underperformed. I was on a pod with the Broad Street Bully podcast the other day, and they so kindly replayed my preseason predictions, and my breakout player choice for this year was Phil Myers. And unfortunately, he did not break out. Maybe he broke a couple
Should've went with
ribs.
my guy, Jim. Should have went with my guy.
He broke a couple ribs, but he did not break out the way that I thought he would play.
He broke more hearts, Jim. He broke more
Yeah. So for Phil Myers, maybe he was hurt all year, maybe he wasn't, but based off his play and the numbers, I think you got to go F, which sucks because he's one of the big guys that this team was supposedly counting on.
Jim, I'm not going to lie. I went exactly the same. I went F. I don't think there's much else to say than what you said. He just simply underperformed. We were very upset with his decision-making. Hoping he can turn it around. Maybe it was too much from the guy. Maybe this is why guys don't get drafted. Maybe there's something scouts see that I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's a little jarring. It is what it is. So next, Ivan Provorov, 56 games played, 7 goals, 19 assists for 26 points. He was actually a +4. He is on the power play. Keep that in mind. You're grading.
So I was disappointed with Provorov in the beginning of the season. He didn't look like we had hoped. We were kind of hoping he would take over the number 1 role and carry this team and put him on his back, but he looked out of sorts at times. As the season went along, I became more and more okay with how he was playing. If you look at his offensive numbers, and I hate to do this for the projections and whatnot, but his offensive numbers project to be pretty decent through an 82-game season. I think he finished with 7 goals, 19 assists, you said?
Yep.
Something like that. So that's 56 games. I don't know what that projects
like 11
to.
goals.
Yeah.
Maybe, 35 assists. Like, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's decent. You want more from him. I think this is his 4th or 5th season now. So
He was he was a +2 player, which was shocking to me.
yeah. So I'm going to, again, we expect more. And I believe that we can get more from Provorov. I don't think that this is him. I think he hasn't plateaued. I think he's hit a point where he's kind of got to break through it still. So I'm going to give Provy, based off the circumstances, I'm going to give him B-.
Okay, so I didn't know where you're going with that. That's pretty good. I gave him a C for all the same reasons. I have higher expectations for Provorov, but one thing I will say, we brought this up before. I've seen it on Twitter as well. He needs a legitimate partner. Like every great defenseman in the league, they have a good partner. Even if that guy, you may not exactly know who he is. A good example of this, what's his name for? Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. San Jose defenseman from the Senators.
Oh, Erik Karlsson.
Carlson. I was going to say Gustafson. That's why I want to say it. Erik Karlsson. So I think his name was Mark Mathot.
Yeah.
So Mathot is right. I don't know, guys. I don't know if the first name is right. He was like the perfect guy to play with him. Like for everything he would do, he would back him up. And then when Mathot went to Dallas, he quickly dissolved. He wasn't much. Like if you find that perfect balance for Provorov, it seemed for a while there it was Niskanen, and I truly believe like losing him and inserting Justin Braun or insert player here was a serious detriment. He probably reminded him of when he had to play with McDonald. It was like, guys, like if we're serious about winning, you can't be doing this. I bring something to the table, but I'm not Nicholas Lidstrom in his prime. Like, come on, I'm still 20-something years old. So I am upset that he didn't handle it as well, because straight up he would lose the puck, make bad decisions, sometimes fall. Like that stuff is why he got the C for me. But at the same time, if you're going to have a player like this on your team and you want him to develop and be better and be a number one defenseman who plays almost 30 minutes a night, you got to get him better defensive pairing partners than what he's had.
Agreed, 100%. And I think that'll help elevate him past that, that ceiling that I was talking about there. So I agree with you 100%.
Final defenseman I have on the list here is Travis Sanheim, 55 games played, 3 goals, 12 assists for 15 points. He was a -22.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Wow. -22 for Sanheim. Dude, that's bad. So all year long, if you're on Twitter, all year long, all you hear is Sanheim's been the Flyers' best defenseman analytically, blah, blah, blah. I don't pay much attention to analytics. That's not to say that I disregard them completely. I just don't pay attention to them. But if I'm watching Sanheim, I've been more unimpressed than impressed. He has shown flashes of what I would like him to be, and I want to see that more. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a D+.
We're very close. I gave him a D. I didn't think he was as bad as Myers, but he was pretty rough. He was asked to play a lot of minutes. He also had a lot of different defensive pairing partners. He did make a lot of mistakes. I expected a lot more out of him. Myers was an undrafted guy where he was a first-round pick, and I'm kind of like, when Provorov went down a couple of years or wasn't as good a couple of years ago, he stepped up. So I was hoping, I know they're both left-handed guys, maybe he could be Provorov's defensive pairing partner. That's not really feasible considering the rest of the team would have been, they were, but really bad. I thought he'd be a more stabilizing force than he was. He had some stretches. Analytics I don't throw them out the window completely. However, D+ and a D is not by any stretch of the imagination a good season.
No, that's pretty terrible. And I think his situation is similar to Provorov's. I think he needs a responsible pairing, a responsible defenseman to pair with him. I don't think they did him any favors pairing him with Phil Myers, who was playing in his second full season in the NHL. I know Phil Myers looked pretty solid at the end of last year and in the bubble, but when you consider the condensed schedule and whatnot, they didn't do Sanheim any favors. They need to go out and get him a veteran guy like Justin Braun, but better. You know what I mean? I don't have a specific name in mind, but someone that's going to allow Sanheim to play his game, his style of play. I want to see what Travis Sanheim is, because I feel like I haven't gotten to see him play his game. He's supposed to be a puck pusher, a puck mover, pushes play. We've seen spurts of that, but maybe, depending on the partner that he's paired with, he is unable to play that way more often. So I think the same as Provorov. Go get him a player that allows him to elevate his game, that allows him to be comfortable on the ice. When you're comfortable, you can play your style and you can play freely. You can have fun. When you have to worry about, I can't make a mistake because it's going to end up in the back of my net, you can't play loose. So if we're going to make a wish list for a future episode, that's one of the things on my wish list. Get Sanheim a competent defensive partner.
And I'm telling you, when they move somebody, and if it's not Sanheim, and if it is Myers, and they sign somebody else, the guy that goes with Provorov, I would like to be more defensive minded, but have that occasional offensive, challenge or gift. Mm-hmm. With Sanheim, I prefer the guy to be much more defensive, and that's really it. It's got to be a significant level, not Justin Braun level, but he's got to be quick. He's got to be fast. He's got to be positionally sound. But yeah, like you said, if Sanheim's going to play, he's going to want to have fun and play his game. He's not going to want to worry about his defensive partner, which he's probably had to do all year. And I think he can potentially have more offense than Provorov. I don't know about Ghost, but like Provorov, like, and still chip in and be something defensively. So there are two different defensive pairing partners we'd like to bring in for each guy. And if they do that, I think that these two pairings can really turn into something. However, that's a much harder thing to do than we just laid out.
I agree.
Real quick before I move on to the next one, Jim, there's a comment in the comments that I just wanted to touch on real quick. It's by Antimeo. Would trading Frost, TK, Myers, and a first rounder get you Jack Eichel? So this is an offer that I say they would not hang up the phone by any means, but considering what teams like the Rangers and LA would be offering, I think it's going to be considerably more. Just to break it down real quick, Myers had his worst statistical season in general season. And he only had one other season to compare it to, and he's not a drafted guy, so he doesn't have a whole lot of value. TK, he really doesn't have a whole lot of value. Frost is yet to crack the NHL lineup. He got hurt. Like, he doesn't have a whole lot of value. And unfortunately, a first-round pick right now in this year's draft, if it's this year's draft, doesn't have a whole lot of value. I think those players or some of those players could be involved. Picks will be involved, obviously, but I think it's more like, if we're serious, you're getting rid of somebody you seriously like. You're getting rid of a Farabee or probably not or York, maybe even a Provorov. I wouldn't do it. I get that, but come on. If Line A and Winnipeg's asking for Provorov, you bet your ass Buffalo's asking for Provorov. They are asking for everybody under the sun. So you're going to see if we do make that trade, one amazing, significant name that you really like is going to be involved in that trade, probably multiple first-round picks. And in addition, a TK, a Myers, and a B-level prospect at that point. It's going to be an absolute haul. I know that he's not happy there, but it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we'll move on. Do you want to do goalies, forwards, front office?
Let's do goalies and front office and maybe save forwards for another episode since there's going to be 12 of them.
Touche.
Or maybe more than 12, actually.
I can't remember exactly, but I get your point. All right, Brian Elliott's first. 30 games played, 26 started. He went 15-9-2. His goals against average was 3.06. His save percentage was .889. He had 2 shutouts. Your grade?
D.
Give me
Just
D.
D. I'm done with Moose. I mean, great guy. I haven't been in favor of bringing him back the last 2 years, and this is not to say that he wasn't serviceable, but he was playing very well in the beginning when Carter Hart was struggling. We've heard AV say it. He just gets tired too quickly, man. Like they can't like give not that they can't give Hart a break, but they can't give Hart an extended time off. Like they can't leave Hart off 2-3 games in a row because Elliott needs to take a break. Elliott can't play 3-4 games in a row. His body starts to break down. He gets tired. He can't recover as quick as he used to. He's older. Like he's 34, 35 years old. I know he looks older, but as you get older, your body takes longer to recover. And essentially that's what AB's talking about with Brian Elliott. So I think they need to go out and improve their backup goalie in the offseason. And, if we were just judging the first half of the year, I would give Elliott a B because he was holding down the fort back there. But unfortunately, things went south, and I'm giving him a D.
For those of you Brian Elliott fans, and for him getting tired quickly, age is a part of it, but that core muscle surgery is also a part of it. Blame Dave Hackstall. That was his fault. I actually gave him a C+. I think his effort was commendable considering the defense. I mean, let's be honest. The difference between him and Hart has been night and day. And as much as I defend Hart and his young confidence levels, Elliott's a vet. And I think because he was a vet, he was able to handle the situation a lot better than most. He did have his gaffes for sure, which is why I couldn't put him in the B range. But if the defense wasn't this bad, I'd be with you. But because they were, I had to give him a little bit of credit. I gave him a C+, but I understand where you're coming from.
Sure.
Carter Hart's next, 27 games played, 25 started. He went a 9-11-5 with a goals against average of 3.67 and a save percentage of .877. He had 1 shutout. Jim, your grade?
Man, you're not going to like this. I'm going to F for Carter Hart. Was not impressed with him this year. Just wasn't. There was maybe a handful of games where I was like, okay, Carter looks like Carter from last year. And I'm not attributing this to Carter just being bad. Again, I'm chalking this up to a weird year, condensed schedule, less practice time, less time to recover and correct mistakes, study tape, whatever the hell they do. But if we're just judging his performance this season, I'm going F. I have to.
All right, I understand that. I gave Carter Hart a B plus. No, I'm just kidding. I actually gave him an F as well. As much as I defend Carter Hart to the end of the earth, I've seen Alex Lyon play better. I really like it, and I understand why. Confidence is a real thing. Those of you who have played competitive sports, especially sports like baseball and a sport, if you play hockey, if you're a goalie, you would understand this. Confidence is a big thing. It really is. You cannot, you give up one goal, you're especially in the first period, and a lot of these goals were given up on 2-on-1s, breakaways, 2-on-0s, power plays, whatever. That being said, it was everything that came after the confidence losing goals. I'm okay to a certain point. And when the one thing I like about Hart that was always said was his short-term memory. He gives up a goal and he forgets he completely gave it up. This was the first year that was not a thing. We have heard that. We have heard that he's in his own head, and that is not Carter Hart. And that, to me, is not good. That's an F. I was hoping that his compete level, his understanding of the game, he could find his way out of that. He'd become mentally focused as he would. His pregame, warm-ups, whatever he would do would just, you saw the videos where he'd be like, going like this, okay, left, right, like doing his whole thing. Like he understood the game at a different level that transcended our understanding. And seeing his play this year, I was taken aback. I really was. Some people are too harsh. I will not. Don't get me wrong, but I want you to understand that I saw the same game everybody else saw. It's an F.
Yeah. When I knew Carter Hart was in trouble this year?
Game 2.
When he smashed his stick.
I should have known that.
That's when I knew that this was going to be a weird year for Carter Hart. I'm not going to, elaborate and bring up and suss up old memories and comments, but personally, when I saw him smash his stick, I'm like, okay, there's something wrong with Carter Hart this year, because you don't see that from goalies, and not ones that we're told that he's very well mannered. He's well prepared mentally for games, and he doesn't get in his head, and he forgets things quick. If you're smashing your stick, you're not forgetting what just happened. It's dwelling. You're dwelling on things. So that's when I knew that he was in for a rough ride this year.
To back up essentially what I was saying, that was the moment you realized he was in his own head. So I actually like that answer. Mm-hmm. All right. Last goalie is Alex Lyon. 6 games started, 6 games played, 5 games started. He went 1-3-1 for a 3.33 goals against average, and save percentage was led the team. 0.893, no shutouts. Jim, you're great on the very little we saw of Alex Lyon.
Dude, I don't know. I just don't. Whatever, dude. Alex Lyon. I can't believe we're talking about him again, dude. I thought this was going to be the year where we wouldn't hear Alex Lyon's name, and we are. He just always somehow sneaks in, dude. Man, I don't know. I'll give him a D.
Jeez, I gave him a C plus. He played behind the same defense as these other goalies here. I gave him a C plus. Commendable effort. You just watching him play, that the level to compete and actually be an NHL goalie, it's not there. Like the true skill's not there. But my God, did he try?
He did try.
That loves Allison and players of that nature. He tried, and he had the save of the year.
He did, actually. I forgot about. All right, I bumped my grade up to a C plus.
Hey, there it is. I won him over.
I forgot about that save. That was a hell of a save, man. It was up for save of the week or something. Save of the year, yeah.
Save of the week. He was save of the year.
Yeah.
I don't watch every game, but still. All right, we'll move on to the front office, which includes 3 coaches and one general manager. Let's start with Mike Yeo. Mike Yeo, second season with the Philadelphia Flyers. He is in charge of the defense and penalty kill. The PK percentage was 73.1. That ranked 30th in the NHL. That was second to the last. Okay. His power play goals against were 45. That was first in the league. We gave up the most goals on the power play more than anybody in the league. far as him being in charge of the defense. The shot percentage against us was roughly, we gave up 28.7 shots a game. That's 21st in the league, which is bad when it's lower now. And the goals against, I'm sorry, no, it's good when it's lower because the goals against were 3.46. That was second in the league. This is jarring. For those who wanted Therrien fired, these stats, when you look at both penalty kill stats and that one goals against stats, I mean, we know that's a lot on the defensive goalie, but whoo, man, Mike Yao, you're great.
F. Hate him. I hate Mike Yao. I hate this guy. I hate him so much. When they signed him, it was like my nightmare. I just couldn't believe it. I hate Mike Yao almost more than any other coach. I think he's so boring. I hated him with St. Louis. I hated him with Minnesota. And when the Flyers signed him, I think it was our buddy Anthony DeMarco said something during when the Flyers started really going downhill. It was, I can see the Flyers firing Vigneault and promoting Yo to head coach, and just my heart sunk. Like my spirit just was crushed. Like this is my worst. This is my nightmare.
You know why he said that, right?
Why?
Because Fletcher hired Yao to be the head coach of the Wild.
Dude, like I would just stop. I would stop watching games if Mike Yeo ever became coach of the Flyers. I would stop. I'd be done.
I have to agree with your rating there. I mean, he was the guy we were okay keeping and firing Therrien last year.
Yeah.
Back when our standards were higher. After seeing some of those stats, like even then I was still kind of iffy. And somebody had brought up during the season, like, why are you guys always talking about Therrien? What about Yao? And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I know he's in charge of the defense. That's more personnel. But then you break down all the numbers, and it's like, Jesus, God, you could put Lapierre back in that role. Like, my God, it's the same results. They're bad. Like, ooh, that was very upsetting. Like, I figured they had a bad season, but wow.
Yep.
I'll move on to Michel Therrien, second season with the Flyers as well. He's been quoted to have said, and this is back when he was either with Pitt or Montreal, let the offense come from the defensive side of the puck. He's in charge of the offense and the power play. Our power play percentage was 19.2%. That's 20th in the league. We scored 33 power play goals. That's tied for 14th, as I stated earlier. We were 9th in opportunities with 169. We gave up 6 shorthanded goals against while on the power play. That's tied for 3rd in the league. That's awfully high. Our shooting percentage on offense, or shots per game, I should say, are roughly around 29.2. That's 12th. And our goals per game are 2.86. That's 15. That's pretty much league average. Jim, your grade on Michel Therrien?
F.
Another F.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I gave him a D. I wasn't ready. Probably only because Therrien, or Yao rather, was so much worse. But I mean, you've heard our thoughts on Michel Therrien. I won't spend too much more time on it unless, Jim, you got something you want to add.
Nah, just failed. They both failed miserably. Power play sucks. Penalty kill sucks. Offense stunk. Defense stunk. They stunk. Fs.
Yeah. Offense only chipped in when the game was out of reach, and it just bumped up their stats.
Yep.
Finally, your head coach, Alain Vigneault, 56 games. The Flyers won 25, 23, and 8 for 58 points. That's good for 6th in the East, 19th in the league. That will not change no matter what these teams with games remaining will do. He had 163 goals for. That's 5th in the East. 200 in goals against. That's dead last in the Mass Mutual East. They did not beat a team by 2 or more goals in over, 2 months?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2 months on the dot. Nearly every single player on the roster regressed except Joel Farabee. Blown out by scores of 6-1 against Buffalo, 6-1 against Boston, 9-0 against the Rangers, 6-1 against the Islanders, 8-3 against the Rangers, 6-1 against Buffalo, 6-1 against Washington, 7-3 against Pitt. They missed the playoffs. Jim, your grade?
So I'm going to go with, I don't know. I'm going to go with a C-. And I'm going to tell you why. Alain Vigneault is the hockey guy. Between Fletcher, Scott, Vigneault, he's the hockey guy. I just get this weird sense that people in the organization, and namely Dave Scott, are trying to push blame on Vigneault. He was quoted saying something as, the coach is in charge of making sure the team is ready to play. And the Flyers, I think at this point, were scored on first in 9 straight games or something. And it just was weird for me to hear a guy in Dave Scott's position say that because number one, who asked you? Number two, it was okay. Well, how about the GM that you hired? How about the roster that he put together for your coach? Right? How about the roster that he put together for the coach? The roster was inadequate. It wasn't. Fletcher even admitted it during one of his press conferences. It was the wrong mix of guys. How can you blame that on your coach? The coach can only play the players that you give him. And if you're giving him a shitty mix, what do you want him to do? And then you consider all the circumstances that came this year with COVID and, all the outside things. If you start off wrong, especially in a year like this, it's going to be very, very hard to come back. And once, that snowball got rolling, it only got bigger and bigger as it went through the year. And you got a shitball is what they ended up with. They ended up as a shitball, not a snowball. So it's hard for me to really blame Vigneault when I can blame Chuck Fletcher, when I can blame the players, I'm not going to call them mental midgets. That's a little bit insensitive considering, how the year went. But Vigneault has the track record. There's nobody else. Chuck Fletcher doesn't even have the winning track record that Alain Vigneault does. The players don't have the winning track record. I'm going to give Vigneault a C for at least, trying to win. They won 25 games somehow. I don't know how they won 25 games, Jack. No idea. They should not have won more than 20 the way they played.
It is funny. Their record is awfully odd for how badly they got blown out. I think that was a lot of individual efforts. I agree with everything you said, and Fletcher will be our final grading of this evening, and that should be – I really want to hear your thoughts on that. The only thing for me that I gave him a D, and the only thing that made me go into the D range was his interviews after the game, his post games, that how he just shit all over Carter Hart. But his system and his style of play and some of the players on his team that truly deserve blame, just nothing. No, none of his coaches were chastised. Nothing. Like they're doing after a 8-3 loss to the Rangers, which is the quote unquote revenge game from the 9-0 loss. He actually had the balls to say, I thought we had a good plan. Really? Because if I admitted I thought I had a good plan and I lost that badly with everything on the line, considering we were absolutely embarrassed in the game before, I can't believe he said that. Like I would have kept that to myself and came up with something else. It just seemed like he could not wait to put the entire blame on Carter Hart. And when Hart wasn't playing, he'd just say dumb crap, and now even he comes out and says, I know what was wrong with the team. I'll tell you later, essentially. And that's kind of like, come on, man. Like, I like Vigneault, and maybe his practices were marquee, but I don't know. I didn't see a whole lot from him. He never adjusts mid-game, like everything's status quo. The only thing he does is shorten the bench, which you should do. We did see Zamula get some more time, but I think if Voracek's stealing, ice time from players, Vigneault needs to step in and send him to the locker room because, what do we care if Voracek gets more ice time? I want to see the guys who care about winning, not the guys who care about, look at me, I have the puck, let's see what I can do with it. Oh, I lost it. What do I care? So, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, which is why I didn't get an F, but at the same time, I was not impressed by any stretch of the imagination, and he didn't really seem to get upset about it unless he was taking it out on Hart. So I went with the D.
Yeah, fair enough.
Final grading, and I want 3 grades from you, Jim. We'll break this down slow motion for you, okay? Chuck Fletcher, second season as Flyers general manager, allegedly. Technically. I want you to grade his offseason. He re-signed Justin Braun. He signed Eric Gustafsson. He traded no one. He struck out on Chara, which we found out he probably had no chance in hell. He struck out on Pietrangelo, Pietrangelo, which we found out that he was really never coming here. And he struck out on Laine. I bring that up because of all the rumors that we had been hearing for so long. I don't know if you want to throw his draft in there, but Forrester looks pretty good right now, as does Zaid Wisdom and Denoye. And even guys like the defenseman, Andre, they took in the second round. I don't know if you can throw that into your grading, but I want you to grade his 2020 offseason. and what it meant going into just this season, not the future. What's your grade on that?
So the draft, I'll give him an A.
Okay.
Great draft, excellent draft. Forster was the guy that I was hoping they would draft. Emil Andre is supposedly a good puck moving defenseman. Wisdom has been tearing it up with the Phantoms. Very nice player. Can't wait to see him with the Flyers. The offseason, though, as far as free agency and getting ready for this year, I'm giving him an F without even a thought, without a doubt, an F. Completely unprepared. Looks like he already had excuses made. I don't know if Dave Scott told him, hey, like, I know it's going to be a weird year. I'm not going to hold any of this against you, blah, blah, blah. But that's certainly what it looked like. It looked to me like, hey, like we'll give it our best shot. And if, if things fall apart, it's, everyone's going to be back next year. So don't worry about it. Off season, given an F. The way the season went, given an F, which is pretty incredible to me right now because the way last season went, he could do no wrong. Last season was an A++. This year it's an F++. It's crazy, man. Just how badly he's screwed this team for this season.
Yeah, I will not argue that for this season alone, he flat out was terrible. It's like he didn't care. His biggest move would have been talking Matt Niskanen out of retirement, which is that's crazy. Like, I mean, college coaches have better chances with doing that with players that want to go to the NFL because, like, hey, I can raise your draft stock. What was he selling to Niskanen? Like it was that you realized he was this important to your team and you didn't go fix that. So I'll cup that with I gave him the same grade. But at the same time, I want you to look at the offseason he had. Now I want you to think of the team long-term, where you can't go trade for a guy who's got 5 years at $6 million or 6 years at $5 million because financially you'll be cap strapped. You can't retain players you like and all that. Like, do you think he did this team a solid in the sense of we went through a horrible season? Now Carter Hart's going to be cheaper. Sanheim's going to be cheaper. Meyer's going to be cheaper. Patrick, if he's even here, is going to be cheaper. And we're going to have more money to add legitimate players to this team. What grade would you give him with his 2020 offseason, but towards the future of this franchise?
I don't know. I would be assuming that that's what his plan was, and I don't know. I think I would rather have seen Sanheim and Hart play well and force his hand a little bit. I never thought Hart was going to get paid more than $3 million anyway, so I wasn't necessarily worried about Hart. Sanheim, I think, could have got around $5 million. I'm not sure if he gets that now. Maybe he gets like a Gostisbehere contract or something. Maybe not even. I'm not sure. But if that was the plan, man, that it like discourages me a little bit. You threw away a season. I mean, that's a big deal. That's an entire year wasted. Like Giroux's another year older. Voracek's another year older. JVR, Couturier is not getting any younger.
Try to take that out of the equation when you make your grade, though, because that's this season. Although them being older, I can give you a little bit of leeway on, but just anything with this season, try to.
If that was the plan, it's I don't know. I'm disappointed by that. If that was the plan, like, hey, let's tank this year and get guys back for cheap. They would have to go and get a guy first for me to be like, okay, yeah, maybe it was a good move, but I don't have 100% faith that they're going to get a guy.
So you lost faith in them, and you want 100%. But if you had to give a letter, so I'll just give you mine. I gave him a C-, where it was an F for the year. I gave him a C- in the fact that for the future, not getting stuck into a contract with a player that's really not that good. He's overpaid. It's going to cost me. I couldn't hate on him too much because I kind of understood why he didn't go get certain guys. And you look, Vancouver was did what we shouldn't have done. And they traded for Nate Schultz. I think that's his name. I always confuse it.
Nate Schmidt.
Nate Schmidt. See? God damn it. Nate Schmidt. And how did Vancouver do this year? Like, they shit the bed. And they got some actual all-stars on that team. Elias Pettersson was hurt most of the year, but he's a stud. Quinn Hughes, he's a stud as well. And they didn't even make the playoffs. And Montreal barely, they have the same amount of points as the Flyers right now. They have one game in hand. They have the same amount of points as the Flyers. And they couldn't make – I get it. They're playing Toronto, but they're also playing Calgary. They're also playing they could steal some games from Edmonton, and there's other Canadian teams out there that they could have had it. If they were actually good, they could have had a much better season. And so I don't want to hate too much because we're not cap strapped. We don't know how long the flat cap's going to be. But at the same time, C- is not a good grade. You bring that home, you're not getting your allowance if you're in my house. So finally, trade deadline 2021. He re-signed Scott Lawton to a 5-year, $50 million contract, which is $3 million average annual value. Traded Eric Gustin to Montreal for a 2022 7th. Traded Michael Raffl to Washington for a 2021 5th. What do you give his trade deadline grade?
It's like middle of the road. I love Lawton, but I would have rather have seen them trade him and get something. The contract's fine. It's a good contract for a player like Scott Lawton. He admitted a mistake in moving Gus for a 7th. And what was the other one? Raffl for a 5th?
Yeah. The 7th is next year. The 5th is this year.
Yeah. I mean, I give it a D, I guess. D+.
I gave him a C. I thought you were going to say that when you said middle of the road, but you went lower. I agree with you on Scott Lawton, though. I mean, if you really believed that you could have gotten him back and he loves being a Flyer, you trade him and re-sign him in the offseason. I mean, what are the odds with the flat cap that he re-signs elsewhere? You're off. You tell him the offer you have, and maybe you can say, depending on how you do in the playoffs, we'll bring it more or less or whatever. Probably more if you're trying to get him back. And, let him get something for him, which I don't think it would have been at first, but it could have been something, a third, a second, maybe both, maybe 2/3. And, let him do his thing, come back. He resigns for the exact deal he's getting anyway. Not to mention, while the trade deadline is coming, this is what you're not talking trades. You're talking to Lawton about re-signing. That's what you're putting your time and effort into. Just re-sign him in the offseason if that's the case. Like I don't know. That was a little jarring to me. I still gave him a C. I like Lawton. He was one of the very few, I don't want to say, bright spots, but he definitely wasn't bad. He was good. Like he did it for Scott Lawton. He was good. He did his thing. He's a valuable player. They recognize that. That being said, how he got anything for Erik Gustafsson's beyond me. And Raffl needed to be moved, and he moved him. It was the right move, a smart move. 5th-round pick, I'll take at this point. He's free agent at the end of the year. You got something for him. I'll take it. It's a C. It's middle of the road. This was why I thought you were going to go that route. You're a little underwhelmed. I get it.
Yeah,
so I guess I'll just finish it off with Fletcher became the GM of this team, December, January of 2018, 2019, right around that time. I can't remember exactly, maybe a little after. It was pretty much before the trade deadline of 2019. What's your grade for him up until this point?
I mean, I'm still kind of getting over this year, so I'm going to try not to be too harsh, but the signing of Kevin Hayes that we were also happy about in the first year doesn't look great right now. Matt Niskanen, maybe his best acquisition of his first season, is not here anymore. Justin Braun somehow is playing top pairing minutes, not great.
Can I throw one more stat out at you?
Yeah.
Cam York was a very nice pick, but how's Cole Caulfield doing?
Yeah, he's playing well.
Really well.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I'm gonna give him D+ because the moves that he made, not counting drafts, because he's drafted very well so far. Not counting drafts, the moves that he's made in free agency and trades kind of are washing themselves out already in year 2. I'm gonna go D+ so far, and it's just so crazy because he was so good year 1, but through 2 seasons, 2.5 years, whatever, I'm gonna give him D+.
I agree 100% across the board. That my favorite thing that you said was the best move that he made in acquiring Matt Niskanen. He is no longer here, and I think that's what we're seeing. Like his most magical move that he pulled out, where with Flyers clearly won the trade. That guy's no longer here because we know Justin Braun's been a nice guy, but come on, second and third, it's a bad trade.
Yeah, they're back where they were before.
When you re-sign the guy to a 2-year deal that's worth barely half of what he was making, guy's clearly on his way out. And we saw how rough he could be. probably good for the locker room, but what does that really mean for this team at this point where the major players in the locker room are an issue?
Yeah, he's
Didn't do anything this year, but like you alluded to, did nothing. Hope and a prayer. And Hayes took a step back, man. I mean, I know some of the stats are somewhat there, but how many shorthanded goals he have this year?
I don't think
they only had 2 as a team. I know Lawton had 1. Who had the other? Was it Hayes? Probably not. You know what I mean? Where he was like last year, he was like Deion Sanders. Like he was like that cornerback that defensive player who would change a game for you. He'd get a pick 6. You know what I mean? We were losing to Columbus. He'd score a shorthanded goal. All of a sudden, the Flyers are within 2, scoring the power play. They win that game. He would carry the puck for 38 seconds and just skate around in the zone and then dump it. Like that player, or he would steal the puck in the offensive zone. That player did not exist this year. He would compile some stats, and that was about it. Other than that, his play was super lazy. And you consider the amount of money he got and the years he got, that's scary. It's a little scary.
For sure. Yeah, man. So we're about 90 minutes into the episode. It's we covered the defense, we covered the coaching, some management. We'll save the offense for our next episode. Why don't we bring it to an end? Why don't we, much like the Flyers season came to an end, feels like months ago, came to an end last night with the 4-2 win against New Jersey. Let's put a bow on this one. We'll be back next week, guys, to cover more of the season, do our season wrap up. Like I said earlier in the show, we're going to try a new thing. We're going to look for Dirty But Good tweets, Dirty But Good comments, Dirty But Good questions. It's going to be a new segment of the show. Something that may not be a popular opinion, but something that we think is the correct or a good opinion, something that we can bring onto the show and discuss and include you guys, the listeners and the viewers, everyone that hung out with us tonight. As always, thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate the questions and the comments. It makes for a great show, great content in the show. And yeah, I don't think we cursed 5 times in the show. So we got to give a t-shirt away, Jack.
2 S words. 2 S words. That was it.
Why don't we go with who hasn't gotten a shirt? Let's go with Ant DeMayo. Wow. Ant's on Facebook, so we'll have to try to get a hold of Ant in the DMs, and we'll have to get him out a shirt. Ant, thanks for watching as always. And why don't we let's wrap this up. We'll be back next week, guys. We're supposed to have some good weather, so get outside, turn your TVs off, get outside, enjoy yourself, take your vitamins, stay healthy, and we'll be back next week, guys. Thank you.